Howdy, my name's Contrast, and welcome to my Hole in the Wall guide. Now, before we begin, I want to make it very clear I am not the best hole in the wall player out there, nor am I the absolute authority on hole in the wall knowledge. I'm just trying to make this guide to help out players trying to improve their scores. Now, also, I want to set some expectations for this video. You're not going to go from scoring 100s to beating out leaderboard players from nowhere. Hole in the Wall is a game that takes practice and different amount for different people. So if there's one thing you can leave this video with, play more if you want to get better. Also, as a side note, everything that I'm going to talk about in this video can be found in the Hole in the Wall Discord, which I will link below. Okay, now, as you may notice, I'm not on the Hypixel server. I'm actually on the Hole in the Wall practice server, made by our very own Black Outburst of the Hole in the Wall community. Now, for reference, this is the IP, and I suggest you come on here and try some of the things I'm going to show you in this video. Now, for Hole in the Wall, there are 2 rounds, qualifiers and finals. The top 4 in qualifiers move on to finals, and the highest score in finals will win the game. So let's start with qualifiers. Before we start, I want to talk about 2 things. So the first one is resource packs. So I'm currently using my resource pack, which is a edit of Hammy's original one. And on the Hole in the Wall Discord, again, which will be linked below, there are a ton of resource packs. Now, the use of these are heavily preference-based. There's some people that don't, there's some people that do, and both of them can equally score as high. It's just that the reason I use one is because I feel it helps me better read and memorize the walls. So there's that. And the second thing I want to talk about is FOV. So a lot of new players tend to ask about this, and I know people that play at Quake Pro. I know people that play below normal. I play at 87. So again, this is heavily preference-based. Just do whatever works for you. So in qualifiers, you'll be given a 4x7 area. Holes will appear over there. You'll copy the pattern of it here. Pretty simple. The first thing we're going to talk about in qualifiers is how the walls will generate the holes. So in queue positions 1 to 8, your walls will almost always have the holes generate in this area. For queue position 9 to 14, they will almost always generate in this area. Basically, 9 to 14 will have the exact same walls as 1 to 8, but just mirrored. Now, there's also a reason I'm saying almost always. For some reason, on the second wall, blocks will be able to spawn in the red area as well. Why that is, nobody knows. And it will be the same exact thing for 9 to 14 as well, just mirrored. The second thing about wall generation, which is less important, but I might as well still mention it if I start the classic game. So in a qualifiers game, what will happen on the first wall is you'll get 3 blocks like that, 1, 2, 3. On the second wall, you'll get 4 blocks. Next wall, 4 blocks, and then 5. And the wall after this, you'll also get 5. This pattern will continue until the wall has 8 holes. And from there, every wall right after that will have 8 walls, 8 holes as well. I'm smart. The first tip for qualifiers is you're going to want to fly. Now, there are players that can get good scores without flying. Granted, the majority of those players are either top players who came back to learn it as a skill later on, or speed builders who have a lot of practice building without flying. There's only one no-fly main that I can think of, and that's Distasted. So, seeing as there's only one of those, you can see that most players will find success with flying. Now, with flying in queue, I suggest not changing your Y level. Again, same thing with no fly. There are players that can change their Y level in queue and get good scores, such as Puffleman and Jack 3. Puffleman's going to laugh at me for saying not to change your Y level. But again, a majority of people will find their success without changing their Y level in queue. Next, we're going to talk about the direction you build in qualifiers. So a majority of players will find it best to build from left to right, hit the right lever, memorize the wall again, and then build from left to right in a cycle. So, as with most things I'm going to say in this video, there are people that don't do that and they can still get good scores. There's some people that build from right to left, like Mason MC, and there's some people that alternate building left to right and right to left, like Cannonel, In Need of a Carry, and Murtiga. Sorry if I'm saying that name wrong. So, just try out those, but again, a majority of people will find it best to build from left to right. Quickly, I want to mention something that I was supposed to talk about earlier, and that is perfect title. So if I put this on and I start up a regular game, what's going to happen is every time that I get a perfect wall, a big perfect's going to pop up. Like, see? And that's not really helpful when I'm trying to memorize the next wall. So that's why we're going to have it off. On the Hypixel server, you can do /disable perfect title or /enable perfect title if for some reason you want that on. Now for the final part for qualifiers, we're going to talk about memorization. So when newer players look at top players like Simon or Puffleman, they'll notice that they almost never look at the wall. It's like they have every wall memorized, every possible combination. And sometimes newer players will think that's what we do. We just have every wall combination memorized in our back pocket. But that's not what happens. What happens is the wall will appear, we'll memorize it, and we'll look down and then build. So that may seem a bit difficult at first. So on the practice server, there's something to help with that, and that is blind mode. So what happens is you toggle on blind mode, you go to mem time, and you can set it to any amount of time. I'll set it to 0.5, and then you can just start up a regular practice game. What will happen is the wall will appear for whatever amount of time I set, and then it will disappear, and I get the chance to build it. And this will happen over and over. So it allows you to practice your memorization. The final part for memorization and qualifiers I want to talk about is a more advanced strat called peeking. Now, if I quickly start up a classic game, what you're going to notice is that whenever I hit the lever, the wall is going to come forward, the glass will stay, the glass in my hand will disappear, and I can't do anything, right? So if I do that, see, the glass goes away from my hand. There's a point in time where I can't do anything. So in that time, what we can do is memorize the next wall. And how that is since the glass is staying, we can just look through it and we'll be able to see the wall behind it, which is the next wall. So we go right there and see, we saw the next wall before it even appeared. It's better demonstrated if I go over to blind mode and I set my mem time to 0. So the wall will never appear and it will only show in preview behind the next wall. So if I start up a regular practice game, you're going to notice that I'm not going to be able to see the first wall, so I'll hit the lever and just go to the second wall. Right? I'll flick it, I'll look up, I saw the wall right there. Just like that. And then I'll be able to flick the lever, look up, and see the next wall. Now, again, this is a pretty advanced strat, I'd say. Don't really try to focus on this at first. I'd say use blind mode. Try to get it your time down as like comfortable as possible with your memorization, and then go on the Hypixel server and see how that works. So now we're at finals. So in finals, you'll be given an 11 by 5 wall. So depending on where you placed in qualifiers, that will decide how your walls are generated. So for first and second, your walls will generate like this. Again, the red area is only on the second wall, and third and fourth will have the exact same walls as first and second, but just mirrored, so the blocks will only spawn like this. Again, the red only on the second wall. Flying in finals. So, yeah, you're going to want to do that. Again, there are people that can score insanely well without flying, like Puffleman, he got a 355 without flying in finals. A majority of people are going to find it easier to get higher scores while flying. Now, within flying in finals, there are people that change their Y level, and there's people that don't change their Y level. They both have pros and cons, and like Puffle changes his Y level, Simon does, Arcsire doesn't, HMT doesn't. I've seen Doggett do both of those. I don't. So I'd say just try them both out and see which one works for you. Okay. Now for the next part, we're going to talk about something that you may notice. So it is my render distance. Currently at 2. If I bump that up higher and I start a practice game, what you're going to notice is that the wall's pretty hard to read. Like, I know some people are probably able to read that pretty easily, but it's much easier if we just go over here and you can drop it to 3 or 2. 2 works for me, 3 works for other people. Look, I have an entirely white background to look at the wall, and I can perfectly see each area that I need to build. So I heavily suggest that you turn it down. Trust me, this will help your memorization for this. All right, so now we're going to talk about memory in finals. So as you can guess, it's not really going to work like how it did in qualifiers. No one's going to be able to like take one look at this and then look down and immediately build everything. So what players will do is they'll like chunk things. So like I'll like memorize that pattern right there, so I know that's what I need to build, and then I'll like glance up right there, and then I know what I need to finish it with, right there, and then I saw the rest of it. So I'm not memorizing the entire thing in one go. I'm grabbing bits and pieces, look up right there, and I have the rest of it memorized. So starting off, you're not gonna be able to like take one or two looks. You're gonna have to like do that, look up, memorize, take another look, and then like take another look. It really depends on like how good your short-term memory is. So just like take into account and try not to build while looking, because that's not a habit you want to build. Now we're going to talk about how wall generation ties into a strat called skipping and another one called buffering. So just like with qualifiers, finals will start off with a lower amount of holes in the wall, and then it will go up as you go on. So the first wall will have 10 holes, the next one will have 11, next one 12, and then it will go up by 2 to 22 holes. So if we take a look at the first wall, we're going to notice that it's not really worth the time it takes to build, right? So the amount of space between the blocks and the fact that I have to go all the way over here and I'm only getting 10 points out of it, it doesn't garner the time that I'm like spending on it. So the same thing with the second wall, same thing with this wall. So there was a Hypixel player named Sparklism, and he said, what if we just like say no to all of those walls and go to like wall 7? We get 18 points from this and it looks pretty worth it, right? So that's skipping. We'll just look down at the lever and we'll just get to wall 7 and we'll start building from here. So to build on to skipping, there's something called buffering. So I mentioned this a bit in qualifiers, but so whenever we hit the lever, there's going to be a dead time on it. So when the game starts, if I hit the lever, there's going to be a time, I'm still clicking it, but the lever will only move every 1.5 seconds, right? And in the short amount of time that I can't click that lever, the wall is going to be there. So this guy named Arksire, he was like, what if we just like grab whatever's really close to us and then look back at the lever? And it's called buffering. So like I'll grab like this right here, I'll look back at the lever, I'll flick it, I'll grab like this, look back at the lever and flick it. So I'm not wasting any time to get to wall 7 and I'm getting points out of it, right? I would say that really just use skipping for a while to get to wall 7 and get comfortable building those walls. And then once you're scoring, I think it's just like people say around 200, you can start buffering. But if you want to, go ahead. I started buffering around like 150. I know Steak Bacon, a pretty good player, he started buffering around the same time I did. So it's really up to preference, and try it out. So the last thing we're going to talk about is something called ArcStrat. So the same guy who invented buffering was like, I feel like I'm wasting time on these walls. So what if I only build what is best for me on the wall? So he would look at something like this and be like, okay, I can build this pretty fast, so I'll do this. I can do this pretty fast. This I have to put a support block for. What if I just like didn't build that and I just went on? And he'd look at something like this. That's pretty hard to build, so he'd skip it. Come here, not mess with those, and come here. See, ArcStrat is different for a lot of people, so there's not really one like strict way someone can look at a wall and be like, if you want to do ArcStrat, you have to place it there, 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 and there, and skip that. It's more of like whatever's best for you in like your skill set, like what you can build fastest, you just grab it and go to the next wall. So for like me, if I go to the next wall, like that right there, I wouldn't do that, but the rest of the wall I would build. And then for this one, I'd build like this, and I wouldn't touch that because I'm not really good with support blocks. I'd go here, not really care about that one because it's only 1 point I'm losing. Do that because I don't want to waste time on that support block, and I'd finish the wall. And I still get 18 points, and I didn't spend as much time on the wall, so I'm kind of making it up. Now, again, people like Puffleman or Simon don't do this, but Doggett and Arksire do, HMT does, I do. So really, I wouldn't suggest trying this like right off the bat. At first, try to go for perfects, work on your aim, and then later on, if you want to try it out, go ahead. And that's the end of my video. I know I rambled on a bit throughout this, but I really hope it did help you. I'll also be linking Puffleman, Simon, and Doggett's channel below. They have some really good gameplay on there, and when I was starting out, watching some top players' gameplay really helped me understand what I needed to do. I'll also, again, be linking the Hole in the Wall Discord. It's a really nice community. and everyone's always ready to answer any of your questions there. And that's it. Thanks for watching.